train, Jeff? I'd like to welcome all who are attending tonight's meeting. I call the Monday, September 12th, regular business meeting of the Lee County School Board of Education to order. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you again for this day and for those gathered here. We ask that you grant us wisdom and discernment as we consider the matters before us. Help us to make those decisions which are in the best interest of our students. Make us think critically and help us to express ourselves clearly and use our mind as we lead. In your name we pray. Amen. You have tonight's agenda before you. If there are no modifications, we can adopt by consent. Okay. I believe first up we have a presentation from Ms. Tara Franklin with Scouts.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Tara Franklin, and I'm the district executive for the Chehaw District, of the South Georgia Council of Boy Scouts of America. As district executive, I am responsible for our scouting program in 11 counties, in which Lee is one of those counties. I ensure our scouts have a valuable scouting program, recruit new scouts, create new units, and raise funds so scouting can exist. One such fundraiser is the Wild Game Dinner happening on October 13th at the Exchange Club Fairgrounds. Individual tickets are $60. Just had to mention that. The mission of Boy Scouts of America is to prepare young people to make ethical and moral choices over the lifetime by instilling in them the values of the Scout Oath and law. Today we are going to give you a little insight into why Scouts join and stay in Boy Scouts of America. We have with us 2 out of the 3 Scouts we were going to have tonight who attend Leesburg schools. With us today is a Scout BSA from the boys troop and a Scouts BSA from the girls troop. After the presentation, if you would like more information or know of a youth who could benefit from Boy Scouts of America, Jennifer Good and Dr. Miller have my contact information, so please get in touch with them. First up is our Scout from the boys troop, Jaden Franklin, who recently crossed over to the troop from Cub Scouts.
Good evening. My name is Jaden Franklin. I attend Lee County Middle School West and am in Troop 99 at Mount Zion Baptist Church. So why did I join Boy Scouts of America? Well, I wish I could say it's because I saw all the fun activities they do and asked to join. That is not the case. I joined when I was 4 years old. I joined because my dad wanted me to. He was briefly in Scouts as a boy and wanted me to get the experience. I stayed for 2 reasons, fun and friends. Camping is so different than what I thought camping would be. We have full day of activities, games, and competitions. While in Scouts, I have been on several trips to include Disney World and overnight sleeping at the Georgia Aquarium. The list of fun things go on and on. I also have been able to make friends that I probably would have never met since we live in different towns and go to different schools. Lastly, Scouts have made me more outspoken and really willing to attempt new challenges without fear. Thank you.
And now up, we will have our troop, our Scout from the girls troop. Give me your name.
Lucy Davis.
Lucy Davis, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lucy Davis, and I am a founding member of Troop 13 in Albany, Georgia, and a junior at Lee County High School. Scouts BSA is a very special organization. In no other organization is a youth given the opportunity to learn outdoor leadership and communication skills. At events like summer camp, you meet hundreds of other scouts who are all interested in the same activities as yourself. I joined scouting because of the opportunities it offers. Whether it be boating, climbing, shooting sports, or camping, Youth like myself are enabled to explore new activities which would have never been available to them beforehand. Plus, all Scouts are encouraged to keep the 11 points of the Scout Law: trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent in mind at all Scouting events. This makes Scouts BSA a safe place for all youth. I mean, where else would I have been able to given the chance to sleep under the stars with just a tarp? And yes, I did stay up all night killing mosquitoes. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Next, we have approval of prior meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the August 8, 2022 minutes for the regular business meeting? May I have a second?
A second.
Are there any corrections, questions, or discussion of the minutes? Being none, no further discussion. It has been moved and seconded that the minutes be approved as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next, we will review and approve the July 2022 financial report. Dr. Miller, do you have any notes on this?
No, ma'am. Did you want to say anything?
Jared? Is there a motion to approve the July 2022 financials as presented for review of tonight's board package?
I'll make a motion to pass.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Are there any questions or further discussion?
I have a question, Dr. Miller.
Yes, ma'am.
In August, and this pertains to the after-school program,
Yes, ma'am.
the balance in the after-school program was $214,485, and then we added an additional $70,000 to it, which brought the total to $284,000. In September, the beginning balance was $24,481, which was the ending balance in August. And we added to that $34,000, bringing the total to $79,431,000. We spent $67,828, but we ended up with a negative amount of $8,397. What happened?
I'll call on Mr. Kelly, our financial director, and ask him.
Ma'am.
Excuse me?
I transferred some expenditures into that program, and when I transferred them, there was an additional payable. It was the encumbrance that was coming due, so I didn't take that into account, so I transferred that, and then they made the payment. So for a short period of time, that end of the month, that we did have a negative cash, but in the next week, when the kids paid, it came back to positive.
But 214,000 to a minus 8,000?
We transferred some expenditures from like playground equipment and stuff like that, so yes, I mean, it was expenditures that went throughout the year. I told you about it, that you asked a question back in last year about the after-school program balance, and I said that at the end of the year, that won't be the balance because we'll move some expenditures to that program. So before we closed the year in last year, we moved some expenditures into that program to reduce the balance in there. And that's what we do every year as far as using that program to offset some expenses.
Is that expenditures of the primary, or it would be all four schools?
It could be in any of the four schools. We also bought some, what do you call those, smart tablet things. She asked for those Chromebooks so that they could have those to work on when on rainy days, and we bought a bunch of Chromebooks for those places too.
Well, that's good. That might help. Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Being none, it is moved and seconded that the July 2022 financials be approved as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next, you have tonight's consent agenda before you. Dr. Miller, would you like to discuss it?
Yes, ma'am. This is routine for this time of the year. There are 41 recommendations for employment, 1 reassignment, 2 resignations, 1 correction to a previous agenda, 1 facility use request, 1 website to go on our, 1 flyer to go on our website, 29 requests to raise funds, and 11 out-of-state or overnight field trip requests.
May I have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Are there any questions on tonight's consent agenda?
Yes. Dr. Miller,
Yes, ma'am.
there are several student leaders, adult leaders.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we filling positions over there that from the summer they left?
Yes, ma'am. We have a lot of college students that help out, and so when school starts back, they leave. So we have to fill those positions.
And several substitutes. Are we replacing substitutes from last year, or we're just adding?
Your substitute teachers, we're adding. Yes, ma'am. I mean, I'm sure there's some that did not continue working with us, but we are getting additional people interested in such.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any further questions? Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the September 12th, 2022 consent agenda be approved as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-0. Next, Dr. Miller will cover the superintendent's reports.
We'll begin with SPLOST. Our SPLOST collections for August came in at $450,757.27. That's the 6th time in 8 months that we've surpassed $400,000 in collections, and the 3rd time we've collected more than $450,000 in a single month. To date, we're averaging $442,393.84, which is almost a $50,000 a month increase over the collections for the previous year. So that is really good news. Yes, sir.
Can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
So what does that mean for us exactly? I mean, this was started before I came on board. I don't know what projects you had going in there, but I can't imagine that $50,000 more a month can't be great. I mean, for some.
We'll have about $1.6 million
Awesome.
in addition to what we were gonna collect, so
Good.
it's to use for other projects.
This is really good.
Oh, yeah.
Really good. Next is student help services. Our COVID numbers have greatly improved. 2 weeks ago, we had nearly 150 cases in the school system. Today, we have less than 10. And this has made a tremendous difference in the day-to-day operations of the school. I think our administrators can testify to that. We're not contact tracing and sending lots of people home as we were the last couple years. If you'll remember, this time last year, we were just coming back from having closed schools down for a period of time. As you can see from the health report, there were 3,422 clinic visits. The majority of those were daily medication visits. 86% of the students returned to class. Typically, we're 90% or more. I don't know this, but I attribute that to getting back into school, being around people. So we had some cold and strep and of course some COVID too. So that we hope will improve. On another note, this is not in the report, but I would like to share with the board some really good news. We currently have 2 sub-nurses that we've been able to, that's great. So if one of the nurses has to be out, we have someone who can step in who's a certified nurse. Sometimes it's a paraprofessional in the office when there isn't a sub available, but it's really good that we have that. Technology has been very busy. They closed out 540 tickets. The start of school is a hectic time for them. Later this month, we're going to be switching to a new web filter called Lightspeed. Formerly, we used Securely. Well, we still use them, but the changeover is coming later this month. We feel good about this new filter. It's in place to protect our students in this school system. According to the Georgia Department of Education, we were one of only 2 school systems in Georgia to get a perfect score on our cybersecurity assessment, where they go in and look at people phishing, the ransomware attacks, things like that. So we're thankful. We feel good about the protection we have. Of course, there's always unexpected, but we think we've got a robust security system in place to keep our data safe. Food service this month served in August served 84,901 meals. That's including breakfast and lunch. Transportation has been struggling with a shortage of drivers. This is a nationwide crisis. It's affecting us here in Lee County. We began the school year with 2 routes that didn't have a driver. We also had some drivers out for medical reasons. I appreciate the hard work of our transportation staff to get the students to and from school every day. We've had office staff, mechanics, and coaches all pitching in to keep things moving. We transport every day over 4,000 students, and that's 350 square miles here in Lee County. I know that it can be frustrating for parents to get the alerts. We're rostering our buses so that we can confine the alerts to just a particular bus. If a child rides that bus, they'll get the notice, not everybody. But we're very thankful for their hard work, and we appreciate the patience of our students and families. Plant operations, they have a PowerPoint that you can see. You can see some pictures there of projects that have been completed in August. They did a great job of getting us ready to start school. Keeping our schools safe, clean, and comfortable is a big job. We have more than 1 million feet of heated and cooled space on 9 campuses, including 30 separate buildings. So it's a big task. One big event that's listed there was we got a new rooftop HVAC unit for Kinshasa Primary School. We actually ordered that last spring. It's taken us several weeks to get that in, and we need one for the cafeteria. Those units are 26 years old. Our men have been kind of propping them up to keep them going because some of the parts aren't manufactured anymore. So we have one ordered. That'll be in later this year. You can see some improvements that from the pictures that we're doing. That's a softball storage facility at one of the middle schools, and then that's a baseball locker room, or no, that's a special ed classroom. And then they've also done some projects improving the baseball locker room facilities.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Are these the old units that we used to have at the high school?
What's that?
The temporary, the baseball portables?
Yes, ma'am. Those were some that we had purchased in years past, so they're not classroom. But yes, ma'am, you're right.
Okay, I just wondered if.
And so they put new carpet in for baseball, and they built new steps to
Yeah, I can see that.
to help out there. And one thing they're doing too with baseball, we've ordered new lockers and painted in the old football locker room, and that's going to be baseball's home for now. So we're excited about that. They're really nice lockers, and Coach Shivers, they're excited about that. It's a good question. Good. Yeah, you are exactly right. Those are units we've purchased, and we use them. There's some at West and East, and then the high school.
Another question.
Yes, ma'am.
In the picture of the locker room,
Yes, ma'am.
is that furniture from one of the media centers that we moved?
I believe that table and chairs is, yes, ma'am.
It looks like it. It
Yeah,
looks
I think
familiar.
that's from Middle East. We're still waiting on that furniture that we ordered last spring. We're hoping that'll be imminent, its arrival. So have you heard anything?
Last time we heard anything was the end of September.
Okay, so to get the new media furniture. They're making it work over there. We commend them for that. Finally, just a procedural note. During the 2022 session of the Georgia General Assembly, lawmakers moved to increase parental oversight over what their children are being taught in the classroom and ensure that parents are informed of their rights. This includes rules for conduct at board meetings and a complaint resolution process for materials harmful to children. GSBA policy update touching on these procedures as part of your board packet. As these are procedures and not policy, there's no need for the board to vote, but I did want to make you aware of them. You have a copy of these laws, and there will be policies. If we've not already passed, they're forthcoming. You'll see just a little bit further down in the agenda. Any questions?
Okay, we'll move ahead. This is normally the portion of the time that the board sets aside for members of the public to address the board with any issues and concerns. As of today, there were no such requests. So we can move on to discussion and action items. First up is a request for the board to approve the revised superintendent's evaluation instrument. Dr. Miller, do you want to recap?
Yes, ma'am. You'll recall that we contracted with the Georgia Leadership Associates, including Drs. Paul Shaw and Dr. Sandy Addis. Dr. Addis never physically came here, but he was part of the development process of this new instrument. We also consulted with our attorneys, Harbin, Hartley, and Hawkins, about the instrument, and they gave their approval of it. Yeah, so the board needs to vote on adopting the instrument.
May I have a motion to approve the superintendent's evaluation instrument as presented?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Are there any further questions or discussion of the instrument?
Yes. Is this the same instrument we just had last month?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it's the
It is,
one that you
okay.
presented.
To me, the evidence is what helps me to understand the evaluation point. So I just reading through the evidence is what helps me. So I like the new format.
And I second that. I like the new format with the exception of the evaluation. And the state of Georgia evaluates their teachers and they evaluate their leaders. In doing so, there are 4 levels that a person can, achieve with every one of the standards. And it's exceeds expectation, needs improvement, and unsatisfactory. And in this particular evaluation, we only have 2, either the needs or the needs improvement. And I feel like we need to follow with the state of Georgia with both the teacher and the leader keys and offer, the 4 levels, so that you can exceed, you can be better than just needs. And that's all.
Anything else? Okay. Should this pass, I'll be sending an email within this week of just regarding the completion procedures and timeline. We will need to have a call meeting. My goal is to have this completed by that, hopefully at that October regular meeting. Look at your calendars to see, I'm thinking that week of the 10th, and to see what days work for you and get back with me, but I'll put that in that email, please.
If I don't answer my email, just text me.
Never get you. Okay. If there are no other questions, it has been moved and seconded that the superintendent's evaluation instrument be approved as presented. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-1. Next, we have been asked to approve the 2022-2023 academic and athletic supplements. Dr. Miller.
You have a list of the academic and athletic supplements before you. As you can see, some of the positions are not currently filled. I recommend the board approve the supplements as listed. The board's approval is needed for supporting documentation for the additional compensation that was paid to the employees. So, as we said, there's a list of academic supplements such as PBIS coach or grade chair. And then there's the athletic supplements, which is our coaching supplements.
May I have a motion to approve the 2022-2023 academic and athletic supplements as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Are there any further questions or discussion? Being none, it has been moved and seconded to approve the 2022-2023 academic and athletic supplements as presented. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next, the board has been requested to adopt the M&O bond millage rates. Dr. Miller.
The millage rates to fund the budget for FY 2023 are as follows. Maintenance and operations, 14.971, and bond, 1.0. This is a 0.0015 decrease from the overall millage rate levy for FY 2022. This decrease is a result of the required rollback rate calculated annually by the tax commissioner.
May I have a motion to approve the M&O bond millage rates as presented?
Make a motion.
Is there a second? Okay. Are there any questions or discussion? Being none, it is moved and seconded to approve the M&O bond millage rates as presented. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next, we have a first presentation of policy JRB, the Parents' Bill of Rights, and policy, yes, IKBC, harmful to minors complaint resolution process. Dr. Miller.
During the last session of the General Assembly, lawmakers passed several laws to ensure parents' oversight of what their children are being taught in the classroom and that parents are informed of their rights as parents. This includes two policies being presented for the first time today. Policy JRB, the Parents' Bill of Rights, and policy KBC, harmful to minors complaint resolution process. Since this is the first presentation of each policy, no board action is required at this time, so it'll be tabled for 30 days before the board takes a vote, and we can certainly answer any questions that you have.
So I see it defines in what issues they have or what a parent's rights is, but where does it say if you catch somebody teaching that stuff? Is that did I miss that? I mean, what do you do to the teacher? I mean, what's the process?
That's not spelled out, but
Yes.
there is a process. We have to respond within, yes, sir. The principal, it falls on the principal first, and they have to respond within 3 days unless they agree with the parent, hey, this might take a little longer for me to look into, and that's flexibility given there if the parent agrees. And then after that period of time, they will submit in writing their conclusion. If the parent is not satisfied, it will be an appeal to me.
Okay.
And a similar situation where I'll respond, and then if they're not satisfied, then they can appeal to this board.
And then as I was reading through, I see that the parent now has the right to look at the curriculum of the teacher of anything that she's teaching for the first 2 weeks of each grading period. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Parents have always had access to what we're teaching. This is parents have always had that right.
All right.
We want our parents to be confident and comfortable what we're doing in the classroom, and I think our teachers do a great job of taking care of our students and teaching appropriately. However, this gives them recourse if they disagree with the harmful to minors is particularly related to any what the parent might consider obscene material.
Mm-hmm.
They have a right to question
But
that.
when the history to this is not going to take, learning about World War II out of history, is it? That's my
sir.
concern.
No, sir. I believe that this has to do with some
Racial issue?
potentially, yes. Well, basically, one law is geared towards race, and one's geared towards inappropriate or obscene sexual nature material. So there's a law for each of those, and that's what the board's adopting, these policies and procedures, so that a parent, one of the things is, if saying that one race is inherently superior to another or inferior, that's not acceptable, and that's not acceptable. Anybody shouldn't, none of our teachers would teach that, but if they did, this gives parents recourse to address those kind of concerns.
No, my concern is not what it is. My concern is that we have a policy that we're following to make sure that these are handled appropriately, because I don't want to see a bottleneck on a teacher because every single parent has a problem with the curriculum because we're learning something that's controversial, that's a part of history. I don't want school to have to slow down or stop because of that.
Well, I don't think that'll be the case. We've enjoyed, all the years I've been here, our parents have been supportive, and if there was a point of disagreement, usually we're able to work it out. I remember years ago when I was a high school assistant principal, there was a particular book that came out that they were teaching, and some of the parents were concerned about it, and we were able to get everybody together, the teacher, the parents, and kind of work through that together. So I feel confident that will be the case, but here legislation has created a specific response that we have to provide, and it protects the parents. It's their Bill of Rights. And then, of course...
Well, I know, but what some people might find offensive, other people embrace.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
And I don't want to get in here because some parents feel some controversial subject is now thrown a book out of our classroom setting because one parent feels it's controversial. I mean, well, that's where I'm at.
Yes, sir, right. And parents are given the option that if, say they're in a class at the high school and they're assigned a book and the parent doesn't agree, and sometimes they're given an alternative option to read in lieu of the assignment that touches on similar things. It's tougher when you talk about AP classes. Those are really college level classes, so the content may be a little different than what you typically see. But the kids handle it pretty well. They're working towards college credit in those classes, so it's going to be kind of on that thought path, and I think our teachers are very good at broaching any subject and dealing with it appropriately and addressing it correctly.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. But there's no action required tonight. This is just, and these are there for anybody to read and review, and if anybody here or in the public has questions, I'll be glad to. There was several laws passed that were kind of duplicating what was already in place.
Okay.
Is there anything further? Again, there's no action required at this time, and we will move to the last discussion action item. We've been requested to approve an increase in the price of milk.
Was this music leading into?
That's my intro. Yeah, our pastor has that when he comes up to preach, I'm not gonna preach, but I'll share with you, this is a neat product. Our milk provider is Borden Dairy, and they're in Dothan, and they are going out of business. And so, it will close the doors this month, and this impacts most of the schools in our area. So we're planning a transition to shelf-stable milk that we can store. This milk can be stored at room temperature. It will not be served that way. It'll be stored, but it lasts up to a year. But it'll be refrigerated before serving. The shelf-stable milk is more expensive than what we've been using. It's about 30 cents more per carton, depending on white or chocolate. The price will increase for both white and chocolate. The current price to get an extra milk at school is 50 cents. We're asking the board to go to $1 for an extra milk. Milk is included in breakfast and lunch, that there's a serving included, so there's no change in breakfast or lunch price. This is just for an extra milk. And I'll
For that
pass this-
side?
Yes, sir. And
Man, I'm old enough
and
now
this
that I can
has
say whatever
this
I
has the
want.
little straw. This is going to be a lot of fun, probably with our younger students. But we think
Oh my God.
we think it's going to work well. I did some personal research on this, and it tastes pretty good to me.
You got
So,
another one?
if you would like to look at it, that's what it's going to be. That's what you're voting on. Shelf stable. We'll contract with a provider to bring that, and we can have it and not have to worry about it spoiling like the traditional milk we use. I want to compliment Miss Regina Dunn. She's worked very hard on this. She's talked even to a dairy down in Tampa, Florida, about getting fresh milk. But that's just not a viable option at this time. Our hope is this is temporary, and it will be able to go back to the traditional milk. Many school districts are doing what we're doing. We're asking for permission to do.
What's the reason that the facility's shutting down, do you know?
I don't know, the transportation is a huge issue. We're even running into that with our food deliveries. We're actually transitioning to a key drop delivery where they'll come in the middle of the night. Our cafeteria manager, I don't know if you know this, but rain or shine, they're going to be at that school to meet the delivery truck to get the food deliveries. When the Hurricane Michael hit several years ago, they still had to come out here to meet those trucks. And we're going to actually have deliveries coming in the middle of the night. We'll provide a key to the company, and they'll deliver to us because they're facing a shortage of warehouse workers and drivers, just like we are.
What I'm getting at is this is based on COVID issues, and we have COVID funding. Is there any way we could offset the cost of this additional milk using COVID funds?
I don't believe we can. No, sir.
What if they can't afford it?
Well, they'll get a single serving.
Yeah.
That's not going to change.
That little bitty thing right there.
We got some big kids.
No.
We do.
My grandson would go through that
Worried
with a
about-
swallow.
That's a lot of money for milk.
Yeah, you make a good point. My hope is this is a stopgap measure to get us through until there's more availability. But
What's this the same size milk it was when I was in high school, ain't it?
Yeah, it's just a different shape.
I'm a pretty big kid, it did me all right.
If you remind me, I found an article out of Alabama on that. I can send it to y'all. I think there was about,
Over 500 schools that have been affected by this, so there's 500 others that are in the same place we are. And they feel like the supplies of this are going to hold together.
I understand the supplies and everything. I'm just trying to think of a way that we can offset the cost. That we don't. I can deal with 50 cents extra milk, but a whole $1, like you said. I mean, I've heard over and over about the number of kids we have in our school system that are considered, what's the terminology you use?
Free and reduced.
Yeah, free and
Or
reduced. And
lunch.
I mean, you know, we're asking them to give $1 for an additional milk, and I just think that's,
What makes it stable? What
I'm sure as how it's pasteurized and treated, it can be stored at room temperature and last up to a year. I'm not sure the science behind it tastes the same to me. I tried it, and if one of y'all want to try that one out, you're welcome to. But it'll be stored at room temperature, and then it'll be refrigerated before serving.
That's the one with the question.
Maybe you should wait and vote after you think of it.
I love milk. I drink milk every
Oh,
day.
gosh.
I'm not worried about milk, I'm just worried about the price.
Did this say in there the cost, did she write what?
Yes, what we were
What does it
before,
taste like?
the cost of it was like 33 cents or
Yeah,
35
that's what they're gonna
cents
do right there.
for a carton of milk, and we were charging
Oh, that was
50 for an
fine.
extra. Now this is going up to, I think, 60 to
63 and 66.
63 and 66.
I don't know, the way he's looking, I don't know if I want it or not.
It's just my taste buds. It's all right. It's good.
The company out of Tampa could deliver the milk to Moultrie, but getting it from Moultrie here, we weren't sure that was going to be able to happen. So she's talked to several other managers, and this is.
Is that the minimum she needs to hold a break even?
No, we could go to 75 cents. The thing is we can't charge less than what we're,
Right, what you pay. Right.
What we pay.
But the break even is what, 75? Maybe.
the break even, what was the cost again?
Yes.
63 and 66.
I think the break even probably be around 80 cents.
Do we still have a rule in place to where when a child doesn't touch their milk, they can put it somewhere so other kids can get that milk?
I'll have to defer to our principals. Y'all know, we had an ice tray sitting out, and if you didn't drink your milk, you set it in the tray, and another child could come along and pick it up.
Since COVID, we have not done that.
Yeah.
I mean, we put
Well, that may be
like
something we could bring back.
I mean, there are kids that just don't like milk, but it goes on the trays automatically. And so, they wouldn't drink it, and it would go in the trash can. And if it's going to be this high, then there are kids that might say, if you put it up there, I'm going to get it, and they'd at least, it wouldn't be wasted.
And with COVID the way it is, I mean, I think that's something I could certainly ask about that. That's a good idea.
Do we offer bottled waters? Is it just milk?
we'll get milk and juice.
If they have a dietary restriction, we do provide a substitute for that.
You said juice?
Just a small juice. They gotta get either a juice or a fruit, so they get a milk and a juice, a lot of them.
Mhm.
The same price?
It's included in.
Juice, oh, it's included. So if they don't want milk or juice, what are their alternatives? We
That's
can't,
primary.
they can't get a cup of water or anything?
I think they do have the option for a cup of water. Did y'all have that done when?
We did have that. I did have that. And sometimes they would bring something and they would eat it, they would drink it when they ate their food on their trays, but the milk had to go on there. They didn't want it on there, the milk had to go on there.
Yes, it
And,
does.
so it's just an option if there's not some sort of a health restriction. And these look relatively safe because of that straw.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, doesn't puncture
Well-
it until you remove the straw.
I'm gonna tell you one thing. Those little wrapper that's on those straws, I mean, get ready. They're gonna be all over your
Yeah, they
floor.
will.
Yours is on your lap.
Yeah, see, and I didn't even know where it went. I mean, there's like Capri Sun things that just end up in my yard by the hundreds.
Mr. McDowell, I would say, my recommendation would be go with what Ms. Dunn has put it at. I think that she's given a lot of thought to this, and she's looking at our resources and what we need to do. So I would say go with what she says, and we'll see where we are. We can certainly go back to that's a good suggestion, Ms. Ward.
It's expensive, it is, yeah. You'd put them, it's expensive if they are, not just put them in the trash, if we have alternate uses if they hadn't been opened.
And they have a shelf life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely make sure they don't get thrown away. I would come up with some kind of method to make sure.
And I don't know if the refrigerating changes the shelf life.
No, it says on the box, you can take it in and out as many times as you want to.
You
Okay.
can take it in and out.
From refrigeration to normal room temperature, but once it's open, it needs to be refrigerated. So obviously that thing's packaged sterile,
Okay.
and once you break it, it becomes non-sterile.
But we could possibly 80 cents instead of $1?
I would think you could. She did the math on that, but we can't do it for anything less than what the cost is. And the problem is if that cost goes above 80 cents, then she's gonna have to come back to you and ask for an increase then. So,
I would go with what, I mean, I understand what y'all are trying to do, but she's looking at the numbers, and and you recall, we have to make a profit. We don't get enough federal support to
her hourly rate has drastically changed. You remember we changed the hourly rate. So her labor costs have gone up.
So let me ask some more questions then. So if it's 30 cents more per milk, and we're with this milk because Borden's going out of town, I'm going out of business, but it didn't have anything to do with refrigeration room or anything like that? That was not an issue.
No.
So the only issue is Borden's going out of business.
That's it.
The ones that,
And she's looked at all the other milk places and there's
There's
no.
nobody else delivers in South Georgia or South Alabama.
I do.
So you could get a bunch of shipments and store them if you had the space.
Yeah, but I don't know about the shelf life of it. I mean,
A year?
It's a year.
no. That yes. I'm talking about the Borden's. I thought you were trying to.
No, I'm saying we have no other alternative besides that.
The milk truck comes every day
Oh.
with the, now.
Yeah.
It's here
Yeah, but
every
it
day.
won't have to now.
No.
Right,
Yeah.
this will be, the ACC's actually the provider of this product.
The packaging for the individual milks is very limited as to who packages that way. More than happy to be one of those that package that way.
No, I get that, but 30 cents is substantial. I mean, there's no other alternative, is what I'm hearing.
What she's trying to look at is, you know, at last we used to get it, we get it for a quarter, and she was charging 50 cents, so she was trying to make about 25 cents. So it's costing 70, so she added the 25 to that, you know, you get to where you round it off to $1.
I'm just trying to figure out what makes it 30 cents more. What's so special about it? That it can be
Because it
stored?
lasts.
Probably the
Because
pasteurization
it
process.
lasts. Right. It's not perishable.
How much money do we spend a year on milk?
I couldn't answer you that off the top of my head. I
Does
mean,
ACC have an understanding of how much money we spend? Does
Yeah,
ACC
that's where I'm
understand we
going
might
with this.
live
We can
somewhere else without
renegotiate.
milk?
next thing.
Because
Well,
I just don't see
sure,
that.
well-
She has to do a bid process on all food, so I mean, she had to go out with a bid on that, and I'm sure that's a low bid, but I mean,
And ACC's not the only supplier we use. We use Williams out of Douglas. So when she has to figure these costs, we got to look at who we can get it from. And ACC has not been providing milk because we haven't needed it from them. We've been using the board. But if you come here in the morning, you'll see that yellow truck out here down at pre-K. They're out here delivering the milk.
Does anybody know how many additional milks the kids normally get?
I don't keep up with that. But I mean, I think what she's doing is saying, I don't want to lose, the 25 cents that she was making before.
Yeah. And I understand where she's coming from, but where I'm coming from is I don't want a child to do without additional milk if that's what they want because of the cost.
I guess.
That's my issue. So and I can see where even my child, if he come home and said, Dad, I need $10 more this week because I want additional milk, and I didn't have $10 to get him, I said, no, you just have to do without. And I just don't want to see a child do without if, they can't afford, or their parents couldn't afford the additional money. That's my concern.
There's no reduction for free and reduced, is there? I mean, if you get an additional milk, you pay that price, is that
I
correct?
think the first one's the free one, and the rest no.
The rest of them are not, okay.
So what we need to do is come up, to me, with what y'all are talking about, a redistribution program for the kids, and they get the ones that's somebody passed on somehow or another. I mean,
I just,
I don't know where that's gonna go.
and then how do you say that free and reduced, because you can't separate those kids, you can't identify them and say they have the first shot at it, and I don't.
Well, if it were me, I would just go back to ACC and say, my Board of Education says you need to get your milk cheaper, we're gonna go shop somewhere else. I mean, that's how I'd handle the thing.
Okay.
I mean,
but
I
this-
guarantee you
this
they
is-
get you a
This
price.
isn't milk though, I mean, this is,
This is like in the next 2 weeks, I mean, this is imminent. We need to make
Tomorrow.
a decision and.
So we're put with something on the day before we're fixing to implement it to vote for. What's the backup plan if we didn't pass it?
I recommend drinking water.
This is just additional milk.
Right.
Well, the thing is the other county, and they hit us with this at the
So
start
they've
of
already
school,
decided to
we're
buy
not
this
gonna
milk.
have milk. Board come out and said,
Yes.
as of this day, we're no longer delivering milk. So we had to come, I mean, she dealt with this from, like in the last month. So she's been working hard. She scared me to death one day. She come over, we're not having any milk anymore, and I thought it was like tomorrow. And it was certain days, we had a little bit of
I mean,
luck.
this is
We got a
something,
dairy sitting out here and you tell me we're not gonna have milk.
I mean, this is something we could look at and come back and reduce it if we can make the cost work, just to get it in place and then come back and
Sure.
revisit it if we need to, have her look at it.
I can ask her to do that.
So then I read it's the 14th, the deadline.
That's when it starts, so that's Wednesday.
I do want to say that she's not in changing the cost of the meal. So the original, she's fixing to lose money by not implementing an increase in the meal rate, because her real cost for the milk was 25 cents, is now gone on double. So she didn't change what we put out there. So keep that in mind, that we're taking a reduction on every meal right now that we're fixing to sell. So,
We've already increased the cost of the meal.
yeah, she
Right,
didn't
but
take
it was
that
based
into
on-
account. That was based on labor factor. This is a true cost in this, direct cost.
84,000 meals.
We're not here to make money.
You are here to pay
for
the
the
You
kids.
gotta pay for your bills.
But
though.
we have to-
Gotta break even.
We're here for the children,
I-
not for money.
Well,
Yeah, but we gotta pay the light bill.
But you got to break even to operate it. It's got to, I mean, it's a break even.
We can't operate the food service program in the red.
Well, we cut out some other stuff that just not need to be spent. Cause these kids are first.
But as a stopgap, it seems like we need to do something for the children and for Regina so that kids will continue to get milk on their trays. And then if we need to pursue something else or do some more investigation, we can, but it's going to give us kind of a buffer time to where there's still milk because, milk is huge for me. I mean, it's good for them, that's what it is.
To see how many they actually get extra. I mean, the kids, they should like it, but they may not. They may
Well, at the end of the day, their milk one milk still comes with their lunch.
Yes,
We're
it
talking
does.
about an additional milk that they don't necessarily need, they just want. And at the end of the day, if I want it bad enough, I'll pay $1 for it. If I don't, I'll choose not to, I'll get a cup of water. So, I mean, I do think the kids need milk tomorrow, so I think we need to vote on that.
I agree.
And
They're
move
gonna
forward.
get milk one way or the other. It's just an additional milk.
I think we need to maybe look into it a little more.
Yeah, I really want that, it's the additional milk, it's not the
Yeah.
first. So we're not keeping kids from getting a meal, we're just saying if you drink 2 of them.
But the milk prices have increased.
So how much is an extra whole tray? Like, if I went in there and just wanted a whole nother tray
I
with
think it's the adult price, it's like.
Yes,
which is
$3.50.
$3.50.
It's $4.50.
$4.50. And that includes your milk and all your food and
Middle
everything?
of high.
$5 a day, man. I paid $5 a week when I was a kid.
How many kids do you see get additional milk?
not alternate
They don't.
KPS.
Okay.
There's a lot, most of the time, we don't have like a designated, there's not a practice of it, it's just that the kids who don't want to throw it away will set it on a little, like, there's a little stand.
Okay.
Kids will take it,
But
and
not-
normally they don't go in and get extra stuff in general, but.
The big kids probably are the ones that are getting extra, I would imagine.
You're right, Dr. Newell. I believe
That's when I took
the
extra.
younger kids, their stomachs aren't big enough to hold 2 meals. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
eat the food on the tray and they don't meal. And really through the elementary grades, kids can't hold that much. They can't. But I can see middle school and I certainly can see high school, because they're just bigger.
Yeah, and I would think it would be a bigger issue at 9th grade and the high school, but
I agree.
I wouldn't say it's a huge issue at middle school.
Well, that's good.
And we've got those water dispensers in there, like, so,
Bottle fillers.
yeah, so that's what the kids will come up and get too. They'll ask to go and get water if they want more.
Okay.
And we got those in all the cafeterias? Okay.
Are there any further questions from the board? If the audience has questions, if they'll see us after the meeting, so we'll sit and answer, we'll get an answer for you. Okay. If there are no further questions, I don't think did we ever get it there? May I have a motion to approve the increased milk pricing as presented? Okay. Trey, I'll take you as the second, Don's the
Okay.
first. Okay. Are there any further questions? Being none, it is moved and seconded to approve the increased milk pricing as presented. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Me.
Okay. Motion passes 4-1. Thanks to all of you who attended tonight's meeting, and if there's not any further business, the meeting is adjourned.
Why don't we start a berry science program for a